The Soviet Union in War Thunder has a lot of premiums, and in this video I will rate them and put them into a tier list. The vehicles will not be rate only how strong they are, because there are actually more criteria to the good premium, such as how that vehicle functions, if it's easy to play, if it does have a lineup, if it's unique, if it's strong, and if it's a good grinder, because that's the main reason why you should buy the premium. And with that being said, let's start with the ground premiums. All rank 1 and 2 premiums go automatically to D tier, because you can't grind events with them, nor do daily tasks. And so the first tank is the T-34-57, and this goes to A tier. The T-34-57 is a great low tier premium. It has a 57mm cannon that can shoot high penning, high velocity shells that are capable of penning Tiger 1 from the front, and you also have 5-second reload rate. It also boasts a pretty good mobility like all the low tier T-34s, and has a fairly bouncy armor in certain situations. Furthermore, the 4.7 is great BR for the Soviet Union, and this T-34 is just easy to use and a good option for your first premium tank. Next we have the Su-100I, and this goes to D tier. It can be a fun derp tank with its 130mm cannon, but it is slow, has a slow reload, and a fairly weak armor. Definitely not a good grinder. Next up is the KV-2 with the ZIS-6 cannon, and this goes to C tier. This is fairly similar to the previous tank, but it at least has a bit faster reload and a turret. Again, can be fun to shoot this 107mm cannon, but it's not the optimal grinder at all. Next up we have the M4A2 Sherman, and this goes to B tier. This is a Sherman, what else needs to be said? It has a fairly good mobility, fairly weak armor, a decent gun with the vertical stabilizer, which is a big plus, and its round can deal with the Tigers effectively. Now we move to the rank 4, and we will begin with the KV-122, which goes to C tier. This is a KV-1 with the IS-2 turret and cannon, which means that it has mediocre mobility, it has a fairly weak armor for 5.3, so you can't rely on that at all, and you have a very powerful cannon which takes long to reload. It's just such an overkill for 5.3 to be using this gun in my opinion. Next is the Su-122P, which goes also to C tier. This is the same gun, just on the different chassis. It has a shorter reload and it's also a bit faster. You also have 75mm of sloped armor, which can deflect some shells if you are lucky. It only goes to C tier because we still have two other tanks at rank 4. Firstly, the T-44-122 goes to B tier. With this tank we yet again meet the 122mm cannon, and we are also sadly greeted with a long reload rate. But the T-44 chassis has some benefits, and those are a fairly good mobility with the maximum speed of 59 km per hour, and also a fairly strong upper front plate, even though you have a big weak spot here. And finally, the last tank of rank 4, the T-34-100, goes to A tier. This T-34 is in my opinion the best premium of rank 4 of Soviet Union. It has a worse armor and worse mobility than the T-44, but in return it boasts a 100mm cannon with a much faster reload rate, even though the reload is still pretty slow. And also bear in mind that you also have -3 degrees of vertical gun depression, so you need to be pretty much on the level ground to shoot the enemies in front of you. It also needs to be said that I don't think that the premium rank 4 options are particularly good for Soviet Union. In my opinion, you are much better to buy the later options. One of the reasons the T-34-100 gets an A tier is because the 6.3 lineup for Soviet Union is great, and this tank fits perfectly in it. Next up is the IS-6, and that goes to B tier. IS-6 used to be amazing when it first came out, but since then it got moved up in the BR, and there are now also more strong tanks around 7.7, especially tanks with heat FS, which will shoot right through your armor. But even without this armor, the IS-6 is actually a pretty decent tank. It has the 122mm cannon, and also, pretty surprisingly, a very decent mobility. That's because it has a 700 horsepower engine and only weighs 51 tons, so you can move around the battlefield fairly quickly. There are better rank 5 premiums however, so only B tier for the IS-6. Next is the Object 120, and this goes also to B tier. When this thing first came out, it used to fight Tiger IIs. Yes, it used to fight Tiger IIs with its 152mm APFS-DS, which is crazily strong. When rating the APFS-DS, you need to pay attention to the projectile mass, which is 8 kilograms, which means that it will have a lot of spall when it penetrates. It also travels 1750 meters per second, so it's fairly easy to aim at long distances. And the penetration of course also is more than you need at 8.0. So yeah, even at 8.0, even at 9.0, this tank destroyer can deal with any tank it faces basically. It can also go up to 64 kilometers per hour, so you can move around the battlefield to the advantageous position fairly quickly, and also has the mechanized ammo rack, which secures it reload rate of 10 seconds. You just don't have basically any armor, so even autocannons will penetrate you fairly easily, and you will also die to planes quite a lot. So yeah, this thing is an ultimate sniper, but it doesn't have the flexibility to perform in other roles effectively. Next up is the TO-55, and this goes to A tier. This tank would be S tier if there wouldn't be a better premiums at rank 6 above it. Because what this tank is at 8.0, it is basically the T-54 but better in every way possible. So firstly, like the T-54, it has a fairly decent armor. It also has the 100mm cannon, but this cannon has actually 2-plane stabilizer, which already makes this tank great. That cannon can shoot APCBC rounds, APDS rounds, or the Heat FS rounds, so you basically have everything you need. It also has decent mobility, a bit better than the standard T-54, and also of course the flamethrower, which isn't extremely useful, but it can save you here and there. Now we move to rank 6 and we'll begin with Object 140, which goes to B tier. This object is similar to the T-54s. It has a fairly good armor and mobility, but the main feature is its long-barreled 100mm cannon. This cannon has a 2-plane stabilizer and can shoot very potent shells. It comes for a price of a fairly long reload however, but you at least have the 14.0 machine gun on top. Not a bad premium. There are however much better ones at rank 6. And that better premium is of course the T-55 AM1, which goes to S tier. This tank is basically the case of you take the T-55 and you slap all the modern shit on it. I have a video where I explain everything about this tank in 3 minutes, but just know that this tank is borderline overpowered. It has a good mobility, great armor that is reinforced by the composite armor, especially on your turret, which is basically impenetrable if you rotate it a bit. It also has a 2-plane stabilizer, laser rangefinder, can shoot APFS-DS, and is just a perfect brawler. One of the best premiums in the entire game in my opinion. And it also has an insane lineup to go with it. The last rank 6 premium is the BMD-4M, and this goes to A tier. The BMD-4M is a great light tank. It's fast and very agile. It has a 30mm stabilized cannon and can also shoot ATGMs with no additional reload penalty, unlike the BMP-3 for example. It also has laser rangefinder and thermals. Great light tank, sitting at the great battle rating for Soviet Union, but I think that the T-55 AM1 is just much easier to play, can perform more roles more effectively, and it's just overall better premium, as it's sitting at the same rank as the BMD-4. Now on to rank 7. First we have the famous and infamous 2S38, which goes to S tier. This is a highly debatable tank, especially the BR it's sitting on. I put it into an S tier because it's insanely strong, but you need to understand one thing. This tank is no brawler. You just can't go head on with other MBTs. You need to either flank a bit, flank and snipe, or play second row and support. You just have basically no armor, and once you are penetrated, usually your autoloader will be at least disabled if you don't die straight away, and then you are just defenseless. But if you flank, and if you have an option to shoot at the enemy while it's not shooting at you, you can decimate a lot of enemy players in very short time, as you have a fast firing 57mm cannon that shoots APCBC rounds, APFS-DS rounds, and also HCVT rounds. You also have all the modern kings you should have at 10.3 of course. And let's not forget the fact that you have unmanned turret, so if you can hide behind an obstacle, you are basically unkillable a lot of the times. Great and unique light tank sitting at a great battle rating as of now. Next we have two medium tanks sitting both at 10.3 battle rating, and I will put the T-72AV TURMST-T on the B tier and the T-80UD to the S tier. Let's first take a look on the TURMST-T. This is a T-72 with the Contact 1 era, but it also has the thermals, and those are pretty nice quality one. So comparing the TURMST-T with the T-72B 1989, this Tech 3 version doesn't have the thermals, but it has the Contact 5 era, so it's up to you to decide which one is better actually. Now the T-80UD doesn't have the thermals, but it has a very good armor and also the Contact 5 era, and it also has a bit better mobility than the TURMST, even though it still can't go backwards. And circling back to its armor, this armor is actually pretty amazing, and that's why I think this is a much better premium, especially for the newer players. And let's not forget that this also has a bit faster reload rate. So once again, comparing the T-80UD to the TURMST, the T-80UD doesn't have the thermals, but it has better reload rate, better armor and better mobility. So this is definitely a winner for me. And finally, we have the T-80U-E1, which goes to B tier. If you watch my videos, you already know how I rate these vehicles. They are not bad, this is a strong tank, but you should always remember that you will be competing with the 12.0, and 12.0 tanks are just much better than your 11.7 premium. It's also sitting at the same rank as these ones, so it's pretty much worthless in my eyes. And with that we have completed the ranking of the ground premiums. Now let's take a look on the planes, which I will go through fairly quickly. As before, all rank 1 and 2 premiums go to D tier, and so first premium is the P63 King Cobra, which goes to B tier. Not a bad plane, with fairly good stats, and so it's usable in RRB and ground RB alike. Its performance there is however hindered by the fact that you can't change the belt for the 37mm gun. Next we have the A20G Havoc, which goes also to B tier. This is a bomber that can hunt other bombers, because it has 6 front-facing 50 cals. It can also carry quite a lot of bombs, so it's usable even in ground RB. Next we have the B55G Mitchell, and this goes to D tier. This plane is similar to the Havoc, but it's heavier and can actually carry less bombs, so I would definitely prefer the Havoc over this. Next we have the P47D Thunderbolt, which goes to A tier. This is a great boom and zoomer for RRB, and it can also carry quite a lot of bombs for ground RB. Good and cheap low tier premium, and definitely try to pick that if it's ever in the Warbond shop. Now we have rank 4 premium, with the first being SU6, and this goes to A tier. Big plus of this plane is that its 4.0 battle rating sitting at rank 4, so you can grind 8.0 planes with 4.0 aircraft. The plane itself is fairly nimble and has two 23mm cannons that are capable of killing tanks. The plane is however fairly slow, but with the air spawn you can even play it in RRB. Next we have the BE6, which goes to C tier. This hydroplane is slow, but it at least has these 23mm cannons for defense. It can also carry two 1500kg bombs. At 5.0 however, a lot of interceptors will just kill you easily, so I wouldn't waste my GU on this. Last premium of the rank 4 is the Yak-3 VK107, which goes to S tier. This Yak is fast, agile, easy to play and excels in low altitude engagements. It's just a great dogfighter. You also have two 20mm cannons, which have quite a lot of ammo actually, at least what concerns the Soviet standards. Great grinder to have, even though you have similar planes in the Tech 3. Now on to rank 5. First we have the Su-11, which goes to S tier. One of my most played planes, and I have better than 3-to-1 kill to death ratio with it. You can play this plane like most of your prop fighters, so it's a good stepping stone to the jet era. It's agile, has a strong engines for its BR, and it also has two 23mm cannons and one 37mm. These cannons have fairly slow velocity, so it will take some time for you to get used to them. But once you do, you can easily decimate decimate any tank you look at. This plane can also carry two 250 kg bombs, which you can deliver with deadly precision. Next we have the MiG-15 bis-ish, and this goes to A tier. This MiG has the same gun setup like the Su-11, but it can carry much more ground striking ordnance. 4 250 bombs, 2 500 kg bombs, 8 S-1 rockets, or 48 S-5M rockets. These are pointed downwards. However, for the rockets, you have the CCIP, which shows you exactly where your rockets will go when you fire them, so they are very easy to aim. This plane, however, sits at 8.0, and at 8.0 you will meet much better SPAAs. That's why I think that the Su-11 is much better. Next we have the rank 6 and 7 premiums. I don't have a lot of experience with them, so I will just quickly rate them based on my research. First, Yak-38 goes to D tier. From what I know, this plane is really unpleasant to fly, and everything it has going for it are its 4 R-60 missiles. Next we have the MiG-21S, which goes to B tier. This plane has worse missiles, but flies much better, so you can actually survive if enemy missile is coming towards you. Next we have the Su-25K, which goes to B tier. This plane is fairly slow, but actually quite maneuverable, and can carry 2 good missiles and a lot of ground striking ordnance. It's also Czech, which is a big plus. And finally, for rank 7 premiums, we have the MiG-23ML and the Su-39. I will put the MiG-23ML to the A tier and the Su-39 to the C tier. Definitely check the videos of other content creators which have more experience with them if you are planning to purchase either one. And that will be all for today. Let me know your opinion and your experience with the Soviet premiums in the comments. Bye!